to break the cycle of impunity in Sri Lanka and to ensure against a return to violence, we need to put in place a credible and independent mechanism for accountability. And international standards with respect to accountability require that these processes advance truth, justice, and victim reparation. And that can happen only by the appointment of an independent international investigation. Nobody will argue that any investigation must be independent. Anyone knows this country knows that no internal arrangement will ever be independent. And that is why we have consistently requested that it must be international to ensure that it is independent. There is another matter about reparation to victims. 3 years have passed since the conclusion of the war. And as I said, if one is serious about reconciliation, the whole language of the government ought to reflect that. I have with me today an invitation to an event that is to happen on Monday the 14th. And it says, somebody has written a book, Gota's War. Gota's War. Whose war? Gota's War. The crushing, and it says, the subtitle says, the subtitle says, the crushing of Tamil tiger terrorism in Sri Lanka. It says, Tamil tiger terrorism in Sri Lanka. Tamil equals tiger equals terrorist. That kind of mindset. Author is C.A. Chandraprema, we all know who he is. We all know who he is. Now, that's not the point. Is the point that I'm making? You can write a book about the war. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the language used. You said Tamil tiger terrorists. Tamil equals tiger equals terrorist. That mindset will never advance any kind of reconciliation in this country. If you are serious about reconciliation, you need to change that radically. Appointment, removing Tamil officers from Tamil areas and appointing persons who have no proficiency in Tamil will not advance reconciliation, as has happened just yesterday as G.A. Vaunia. This follows some time ago the appointment of the G.A. of Mena. We protested. We have consistently protested about the fact that the government agent Trincomalee is also a person who has no proficiency in Tamil, and worse, he is a retired military man. There are only 2 provinces in this country that have, as their governors, retired military personnel. That's the north and the east. Now, why is that? 3 years after the end of the war, paying mere lip service to reconciliation, you still want to keep that tight control over those people. You want to occupy their lands. Only 2 days ago, we had an adjournment motion on that, and I must place on record the most responsible reply that we had on that day from both the Minister for Resettlement and the Deputy Minister of Resettlement, who both conceded that enough has not been done. There were other ministers who talked through their hats, but the ministers concerned accepted that this has not been done properly. Now 3 years on, the Honourable Member for
advocate how he advocates. So he misleading the House. The minister never said that. They said something has to be done more and it will be done. Government will do it. No, they never said not done. Don't mislead the House like you are doing to your client.
Honourable Minister, member, you continue.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Member for Kandy moving the resolution referred to various assurances that the government has given without thought, without serious sort of consequence, just to get over their difficulty on that day. And all of those are matters of record, and the resolution that was passed in May 2009 in the United Nations Human Rights Council very specifically says that it welcomes the assurance given by His Excellency the President. And this is what it says, welcoming also the recent assurance given by the President of Sri Lanka that he does not regard a military solution as a final solution, as well as his commitment to a political solution with implementation of the 13th Amendment to bring about lasting peace and reconciliation in Sri Lanka 3 years ago. Now, it's a strange thing in this country that the head of the country gives assurance that he will implement the Constitution. That speaks volumes about the rule of law in this country. Honorable Lakshman Kiriella referred to previous resolutions in 2006, where assurances were given that the 17th Amendment would be implemented. Whoever gives assurance that a part of the Constitution will be implemented, conceding thereby that they are violating the Constitution at that point in time. And here we are 3 years later. Nothing has been done about implementing part of the Constitution. 13th Amendment remains on the Constitution, and repeatedly the government says we will implement it. Every time they say that, they are conceding to the world.
Honourable Member.
Sorry?
You have 1 minute.
1 minute, thank you. Okay, thank you. How much time can you give? Right, thank you.
I will take off Honourable Mangala Samaravira or Honourable...
No. No, I will conclude soon. Now this will take a minute. So
you'll take a minute, yeah.
I will conclude. Okay. So these assurances themselves have given a clear picture to the international community that this is a country that does not honor its constitution, its supreme law. And that is consistently confirmed by its ministers and even the head of the country, that we don't honor the constitution. We merely pay lip service, we take oaths under this constitution to uphold the constitution, and then we go around the world saying, we will implement it, someday we will implement it. Now this is the attitude that has to change. This assurance given world over that a political solution will be found has not been done. No effort has been taken. Merely appointing committees and ensuring that nothing comes out of those committees is no way of demonstrating the world that you are serious about finding a political solution. This is the same with regard to the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission as well. Why should the LLRC recommend that there must be rule of law, that the constitution must be implemented? Don't we all know that? Why should an interagency advisory committee have to be appointed, yet another committee, when interim recommendations are made by the LLRC? If LLRC makes interim recommendations, implement those. It is for that you appointed that commission in the first place. Now it has given its final report. You have gone and appointed yet another committee to advise you on what of that can be implemented. And when that report comes, a further committee will be appointed. And when that comes, another committee will be appointed. And this pattern keeps going on and on and on. Honorable Minister was heard urging members of the United National Party,
Member,
I'll conclude.
you have exceeded.
I'll conclude now. To convince the Tamil National Alliance to come into the Parliamentary Select Committee. Now, we have made clear to the whole country our position with regard to the Parliamentary Select Committee. You can't appoint a committee for bilateral talks, go on with that for 1 year, and then start appointing another committee. There must be an end to appointment of committees. There must be a serious political will that is demonstrated in action. And even this action plan that has been mentioned in this motion, I conclude now supporting the proposition that the action plan must be first laid bare to the country before something that we don't know is taken around the world to deceive the world. Thank you very much.
Honorable Chandrakumar Murugesh.